Well, hello people of Defend the House, and welcome back to another monthly review roundup. I say monthly, but we haven't done one since May?
Yeah, it was the April review roundup.
Yeah, well, it's been a quiet period of time when it comes to AAA titles. It feels like there hasn't really been anything since God of War. We've been waiting.
Yeah.
It's been a cold...
Waiting impatiently. Not in any way were we patient either during this horrible drought that we suffered through.
It was a severe drought of nothing but Fortnite and indie games.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really interested in Fortnite, so I was looking forward to some AAA stuff, but finally, we have stuff. We have the very anticipated Spider-Man for PS4.
Excuse me, Marvel's Spider-Man?
Marvel's Spider-Man. Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Right.
And we will probably also be doing something that we said we might do when we first reviewed Destiny 2. When we first ever reviewed it, we said that we might come back in a year and talk about the progress, because obviously Destiny is a, I don't know what you call this genre, a lifestyle game.
Yeah, live game.
A live service, something that continues to grow as it goes on. And we knew we couldn't judge it until it was pretty much near the end of its life cycle, and it is, and it's been something.
Yes,
so
we're
going to talk about, we're going to talk about that somehow. I don't know how we're going to summarize that, but we're going to try.
Yeah,
but until then, fuck, no, I'm not looking forward to that. But until then, let's start off chronologically with the AAA stuff. Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man.
Yes.
For PS4.
From Insomniac.
Yes, from Insomniac, a studio which I absolutely love.
Yes, I would echo that. Maybe a little. I'm maybe like a little newer to the I like Insomniac games, even though I have liked them. I just was late to playing a lot of their games, but that's a good studio. They make good games. They treat their people real well. They have a very good track record of making fun games. And
it's nice to see them get the spotlight for once. Because even though Sunset Overdrive was fantastic, doesn't really feel like it really went as far as it should have done.
I don't even think it saw a nightlight. Just no one. No, you and I are the only people that played and liked that game. It's very tragic.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah,
that is a shame.
Yeah. I remember when they announced Spider-Man, you know, they showed the trailer at E3, and I was like, oh, cool, all right, Spider-Man. And then at the end, it was like, from Insomniac Games. I was like, oh, okay, I'm sold. I'm on board. Done. You don't need to sell me on an Insomniac Spider-Man game, because it made such perfect sense. You know, going from Sunset and the Ratchet games to Spider-Man. It's like, well, here's a studio that makes fun adventures with you know, a good sense of humor, good gameplay, good traversal. Yeah, and it was like, okay, good, sold, done. And so I just sort of sat back and waited for it to come out.
I was very excited because I have a bit of history with Spider-Man in games. I played the original one on the PlayStation 1 when I was a wee youngster, which I have some great memories of, and then Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2 was a fan favorite of my childhood street among my friends. We would all play Spider-Man 2, just kind of swinging around, because at the time movement in games wasn't very exciting back in the PS2 days. So to be able to swing around was good. It was thrilling, and I kind of forgot when this game was coming out that there was going to be stuff to do in the game, because I was just kind of thinking about that nostalgia of swinging around, and I was just looking forward to the movement system in Spider-Man. There's a lot going on in this game, more than I expected there to be, and I don't really know where to start, because whenever you come into these open world games, you can kind of break them down into like combat, open world, story, so I'm not sure where you want to begin.
I was also going to say, there is a lot going on in Spider-Man, and I think there may be a little too much. Or it's not necessarily that there's too much. I don't know. There's a lot in Spider-Man, and I don't know that it all needed to be there. I don't know that any of it is. I don't think any of it is necessarily poor or detracts from it. But it's just sort of. I was surprised at how much stuff is just in Spider-Man. But maybe we can get to that later. I also agree. I'm not sure. How's the swinging, Joe? Were you happy with the swinging?
Yes.
All right, done. Moving on.
It is a good place to start because it's the one thing that I was really excited about, and the game does a really cool thing where you don't start out as Peter Parker walking around. You start off the game swinging. It like hands the controls over to you mid-swing, and it feels fantastic. I sometimes, even though I've basically completed everything in the game that I care about, sometimes I just want to swing around the city. I don't really have anything to do except the crimes, and it just feels really, really good. And I remember the first thing I did when I started swinging, in the PS2 days, there was like visual trickery where the ropes would just attach to nothing. It would just beam into the sky. And it was like a bit of an illusion where you couldn't really turn the camera behind you. So the first thing I did was turn around and see if every piece of webbing was sticking to stuff. And it was.
Yeah.
Every piece of webbing sticks to something, and you act accordingly depending to what it sticks to. And sometimes, I don't know if you ever had this, you're swinging around and you just try and web and nothing happens. And you're like, excuse me, game? Are you doing anything?
It's like, it's because you're in Central Park. There's no buildings around. And
it does a really good job of like dynamically picking the right stuff. Because even in like Central Park, it clings onto trees. And it's pretty generous with propelling you far enough, sometimes unrealistically, to make sure that your momentum carries on. But boy, does it feel good.
Yeah, the swinging, they do a really good job of like treading the line between what feels like just auto, like you're barely doing anything, and you actually having control. Like the reality is you can pretty much just hold down the right trigger and push forward, right? But like they make it feel like you can have a decent amount of control over it. Like you can, sort of let go of right trigger when you want to. You can, jump out of your swing at different points. They do a really impressive job of like, hey, it's a video game, but like it feels and looks really realistic. And I went in expecting the web, like the webs to not attach to anything, and so when I got in, it was like, oh, like every web shoot swing that you do is hooked onto something, and you can tell what you're hooking onto because of where the webs are going. I was like, wow, that's I'm very impressed by that.
They add like tiny little bits of agency into the web swinging, where you can wall run and spin around corners, and you can do the thing where you zip onto a point and you kind of explode off of it.
Yeah.
And it's never necessary, but it's just a bit of movement variety that you can choose to do, which feels great when you're chaining it all together.
Yeah. They make it feel like you have a lot of agency in the movement, when the reality is you really don't, you aren't doing that much, but the feel is there, and it feels like you're constantly making decisions on how you want to go about the traversal. And
there's navigating buildings and like a little bit of pathfinding on your behalf. There's just enough to make it feel like you're doing it.
And the traversal is super duper good. Like, it's the most important part of a Spider-Man game, really. And it's not, they also, and this sort of ties into like just general presentation of the whole game, but like there's a lot of really smart just visual things that they do, like with the motion blur, which you might have probably turned off, but it's really good.
I turned it down this time, not off.
That's good. Yeah, like it only blurs like the edges of the screen. The way the camera sort of goes off kilter when you do like a hard swing to the left or right, like the camera's barely keeping up with you. It's super well presented, the swinging stuff, and like enhances the feel of the swinging, which sort of ties into the just this was your first PS4 Pro game, right? Your first new PS4 Pro game.
Yes.
How was that?
It looks pretty damn good.
Yes, it does.
It's the first game I've ever played in 4K. Actually, I played like Yakuza, which is, basically a Japanese comic thing, so...
I'm pretty sure that actually doesn't even have PS4 Pro support.
Yeah, it doesn't look fantastic.
No.
So Spider-Man was a bit of a step up. And it looks phenomenal. It looks essentially like as refined as a comic book-esque game ever really needs to look. It's so shiny and sleek.
Yeah.
And the lighting engine is, it looks good.
It was the most impressive part of the visuals, which I think will tie directly into what I think the best part of the actual game is, which is the story stuff. the cutscenes are incredible. Like, just visually speaking, first of all. Like, they look so good. I was blown away by, especially a couple of those late game cutscenes where, you know, things happen out at the raft prison. Every single cutscene in that game looks unbelievable. And this is something that's come up. I feel like we've said it lots this year, where it's like, do we really need games to look a lot better than this? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
I really don't know. We did have this discussion on a podcast, I think.
Yeah.
And when you're going for a graphical style along these lines where it is comic book themed, like, when you're not going for photorealism, I feel like you just hit a wall where it's like, do things need to go any further than this?
Yeah.
It just looks so clean.
The game strikes a good balance in the way that a Naughty Dog game does, where it's like, okay, like, you know, it's stylized, it's a little cartoony, but it's also still going for like photorealistic in their sort of cartoony vision, right? And the cutscenes, you know, like the world of Spider-Man is pretty much very super realistic. But then the cutscenes, the way they light, I noticed this late, and I went back and watched a few cutscenes, and they do this a lot. They light their cutscenes really intelligently. They put like a big, if you pay attention, a lot of the cutscenes, especially when there's a villain, it's like they have a helicopter spotlight on them, and it gives this really nice side lighting to all the action, so you can see clearly what's happening all the time, and you get these nice shadows on everything. And it's just, I had played Ratchet and Clank Future, A Crack in Time, over the summer, which was another Insomniac game, and I was impressed when I played that at how good and entertaining the cutscenes were and the storytelling was in that, especially versus Ratchet and Clank 2016, which just had clips from the bad movie. And you can really see it in Spider-Man. It's like, oh, Insomniac are really good storytellers in a way that was kind of shocking. You know, and it's like, their cutscenes are all really well put together, but the story stuff in Spider-Man was the most surprisingly great thing about the game, I think, for me.
Yeah. Because I had no idea what they were going to do. Yeah. And I remember seeing the last E3 trailer and being a little bit surprised to see cutscenes in the first place, which is a weird thing to say. But I was so distracted by how the game's going to play that I forgot that games need campaigns and stuff to do.
Yeah. and like, it starts off, you know, fine, and there's some good moments, you know, here and there. There's some good scenes with like Mary Jane and Peter and Aunt May, and you know, that's all good. And the story maybe drags a little bit in the middle, where you're just kind of like going from one place to another, trying to track down.
Yeah, the pacing was a bit off during that chain of events where you're just going from person to person.
Yeah, but
I think you know what I mean.
Well, I do. Yeah, it's sort of just like it's a little bit like the late stuff in God of War, where they're like, oh, we're ready to go to the thing. Oh, just kidding. We need one more MacGuffin. Go get that thing. And they just sort of repeat that one too many times.
It's like all the stuff before the raft started to kind of drag on.
Yes. And I was a little disappointed that the stuff with Raft happened so late in the game, because it gets like super exciting for the last like 5 hours. And I wish that had maybe been stretched out and brought forward a little bit. But every cutscene is so well written, and the, like, you know, facial performances and the acting, the voice acting, it's all super, super good. And I was not expecting that. Like, I sort of, like you, had just, you know, I was like, whatever, it'll have a story. I'm sure I won't really care much about it. But I did, especially near the end of it, where they ramp the stakes up a lot, and then like the last 30 minutes of that game is like really emotional.
Yeah, surprisingly. I think they just did a good job with Peter.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
great.
that anyone else in the cast is bad, but I found like watching 3 different renditions of Spider-Man in cinema.
Yeah.
The biggest difference to me is if you like Peter Parker and if he seems a bit like a clumsy kid. And I think this is my favorite Peter Parker in entertainment. I think I like it more than Homecoming.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
I think the Peter voice actor is really good.
He's great.
And they do a nice job of, he's like almost bulletproof in his emotions all the way through the game. Just such a wholesome guy.
Yes.
And then just a little bit of like selfishness and weakness comes right at the end, and it kind of hits home after like 20 hours of him just being the best nice neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yes. They really do a good job of embracing that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man thing. Like, he is a super nice guy. Maybe a little too nice at times. It's like, oh, Peter, stop it. You're making us all look bad. God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really, really struck by just the quality of the storytelling throughout, but especially near the end of the game. You know, people are like
really good.
There's like people weeping at the end of that game, and I'm like, wow, this is, and like it's not awkward or weird in the way that like emotions can be kind of bad in video games. You know, like people don't cry in games almost ever because I don't think anyone knows how to write a story or make those scenes come across as not being totally weird.
I have a point to bring up that's kind of weird.
Okay.
And it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler, so I don't know if you want to bleep it out.
Oh, whatever.
But there's a point at the end, this is going to make me sound like a real creep, where Peter and Mary Jane kiss, and I was like, wow, that looked like a real kiss.
Yeah, it did.
It looked like the first real kiss in video game history.
I remember the Uncharted 4 kiss being really good, where like the cartilage of the nose was like properly bending, you know, and it's but of course it's a Naughty Dog kiss, you know. I mean, but yeah, no, that's a good thing to point out. Like, you know, kisses in video games always look terrible.
Awkward. Yeah, really awkward.
It's like, oh, the two Barbies are putting their faces against each other. Like, this isn't awkward at all.
Yeah.
And that's a test. That's a good example of the quality of their cutscenes and their storytelling. Is those two have a good relationship, and it's well written, and it's well played, and well executed, and and the kiss looks human and normal. Like, that's not a small accomplishment, you know. And yeah, I was sort of like the Batman games, which unfortunately we will probably I will have to probably bring up Batman more than once in this
100%
chat.
when we get to combat. 100%.
But, you know, the Batman games, I remember being really surprised by the storytelling in the Batman games. I remember really liking the Kevin Conroy version of Batman, and of course Mark Hamill's Joker, you know, that, and all those cutscenes were really well done. And when you have really well done cutscenes, the writing has to be just like fine, you know, and you sort of forget about any sort of maybe slight issues in the writing, which I don't think Spider-Man really has.
Nah.
And yeah, I that was the biggest surprise for me, was like, wow, the characters are great, Peter's great, the story goes really to some good spots near the end and is super well told. It's good. That was my biggest surprise with Spider-Man, and I wanted more. Like, when it was over, when this main story was over, I was like, oh, I would have played, you know, another 5 or 10 hours of like more of that good quality storytelling that they get to in the last 5 hours, which, you know, I'm sure they'll probably make another one of these games.
I wonder, maybe, who knows? Not sure how it sold, but maybe they'll make another one. Do you want to transition on to the story missions?
Sure.
Because there's some... The story missions are... They try...
They're a little all over the place.
Good variation.
Yeah.
They try to keep them varied, which I appreciate. I think the highlights are the ones that resemble what we saw at E3, where he was chasing the helicopter, and it's almost very much a Marvel cinematic moment, like what you see in the movies. And it feels like a Naughty Dog experience. It's incredibly movie-like, and there's two like that in the game. And I think they're the highlights. There's boss fights, which look incredible, but are a little bit mechanically simple.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
A bit dated, where it's quick time events and doing a pattern over and over again. And I think that's fine, because boss fights are boss fights, and they're definitely just going for a cinematic feel when it comes to those encounters. But I remember playing the PS1 game, and in the PS1 game, when you fight Rhino, you just have to make him run into stuff and stun himself. And it's a mechanic I've seen like 1,000 times, and I was kind of a bit shocked when it was the exact same thing in this game. Except you're fighting the Scorpion at the same time.
Right, yeah.
And like, there's the bit where you're doing a Scorpion mission, and it's like, the typical hallucination mission that every video game needs. From every Far Cry to every Batman with a scarecrow, there has to be a hallucination sequence. And there's just a couple of copycat mechanics in the story missions which feel like they observed what everyone else was doing and felt like they had to put in.
Yeah.
And they're probably the weakest part of the game. And I don't know if you want to say anything before we go into the obvious elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's save that for a minute. I was going to say the exact same thing about the boss fights. I remember thinking, and especially because there were quite a few boss fights near the end, I remember thinking, boy, I would just love to sit back and watch these, because like every boss fight is just dodge, dodge, dodge. Okay, now you can hit triangle and then punch him a few times, and then you just repeat that like 7 times. Like, it's not a fight, it's just you killing time until the button prompt comes up. And
yeah, it's more of an interactive cutscene.
Yeah, and that was apparent. Like, that's the first boss fight of the game all the way to the last. I just wish it had been a cutscene, because they look so great, and playing them gave me nothing. In fact, I was just sort of bored.
I feel like the first boss fight was the one that I felt most involved in.
Well,
I can't remember what the guy's name was. The shocker guy. Yeah, in the bank.
Oh, the shocker guy.
Yeah, that one actually, I was like, oh, I was figuring stuff out.
Oh, I hated
that
maybe,
maybe like a couple hours into the game, you're so used to just dodging
and
doing the basic mechanics that they feel like they play themselves a bit.
Yes, I agree. And also, and this will come up again when we talk about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I realized with a couple of game mechanics this year that I never want to see them ever again in a video game. And hallucinatory sequences in video games need to go into the garbage. And I don't necessarily think that Spider-Man was the breaking point. It was Far Cry, which is Far Cry 5, which is like 80% garbage. We can't get back into that. But like Spider-Man does it, and it's fine. Like it's harmless, whatever. For the most part, and it made sense in Batman, because that's the Scarecrow's thing, right? Even though by even the second Batman game, it was a little tired. In the first one, it was like, wow, this is super awesome and creative. But
I mean, in the context of Spider-Man, it did make sense, because you were stung by the Scorpion.
He had yeah. But it's like, devs, we can move on. Like, we're not missing any. Like, no one will miss these. They're dumb, and they serve no purpose, I don't think. And I really am so tired of them.
It feels a bit like a trope at this point.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing that I think needs to go away from all video games forever, unless your whole game is built around it, is stealth sections.
Yes, insta-fail.
Insta-fail stealth sections. No thanks.
What a weird design choice.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of them as well, to the point where there's even points to the game where it's a bit honed in. There's one scene where Miles can't be bothered to queue for one of those security checkpoints, so he just jumps a fence. So you're forced to do a stealth section.
And it's like 3 minutes long.
It's like, you've written this in.
Yeah.
This isn't in the context of the story. There's one where like Mary Jane is doing a sneaky thing inside a base, which makes sense. But there's some where it feels like they're trying to make them appear more often, and I just don't understand why. If there was like 1 or 2 of them as a novelty thing, because it fits in with Mary Jane's storyline, which it does at times. There's one which actually I think works quite well.
Yes, Grand Central.
In Grand Central, where you're actually switching between her and
I like
Spider-Man.
That one.
Yeah, that made sense in the context of the story. But there's some, especially with Miles, where it just like forces you to do them.
Yeah.
And they just feel out of place. And from a design decision, you're like, no one likes these, right? People have been complaining about this since Assassin's Creed, so it's just a very strange choice.
I think if there had been like 2 or 3 of them, I would have been fine with it, and if it was all like Mary Jane, she's sneaking into this, and then the Grand Central one, and then maybe one other, like that would have been okay.
Yeah.
And like I look at it and I think, did these exist because Marvel or Insomniac wanted players to be able to play as other characters in the Spider-Man fiction that they like? People like Mary Jane, people like Miles Morales. Did they want to did they just include those for like fan service and didn't know how else to do it? I don't
Maybe.
know. But they really suck. Like,
yeah, there's a couple which are really bad.
And again, it's not like there are 2 or 3. There's like a dozen of them, and near the end, it's like every other mission. There's one of them. It felt like.
Yeah, the AI is useless as well.
Yeah, it's bad. Like and they keep going, and they keep like adding new mechanics in, where it's like now you can hack these things, now you can throw these distractions, and it's like I don't care. Like, why is this here? It was very strange.
Yeah, especially it's like Whiplash from playing as Spider-Man. And I don't know if it was supposed to be a bit of variance in speed, but I don't want to slow down.
No, yeah. If the only one had been the Mary Jane one, I think that one would have been cool, and that would have been sort of like a unique standout mission.
Yeah, that was a fun little novelty where you were like asking Spider-Man to pick stuff up, and you got to see essentially Peter from a different perspective except for your own, and then you did a little bomb defuse thing, spoiler.
Yeah.
And it was that was fun.
I like that part, but jeez, I don't know why there are so many of them in there.
Yeah, too many.
When they make the sequel to this game, well, maybe you don't know 100%, but I sure as hell hope that that's the first thing that they're like, all right, what did we learn from Spider-Man 1? No more stealth sections. That's like the first thing they write on the whiteboard.
Yeah. Get rid of them.
Yeah. They serve really no purpose whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a couple hit or miss missions in the game. And just a bit too much Mary Jane stuff. And all of Miles's missions kind of felt like they didn't need to be there either.
Yeah.
You can develop him in cutscenes.
Exactly.
You don't need to do a stealth section with him.
Yeah. Which was sort of frustrating. What else?
It's a shame.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I think the missions were pretty good. A lot of variation in them.
Yes. The couple of big set piece missions are incredible. The helicopter scene was great. Everything at Raft, was excellent.
Oh, yes, that was so good.
The final fight sequence was pretty good just because it looked so good.
Yeah, like, the boss thing is a minor complaint. Because even though it's not very involved for you as a player, they still look good.
Yeah.
And I like cinematic moments in gameplay.
Totally, yeah.
As long as the game isn't like a walking simulator made to be a movie. And there's Spider-Man isn't. There's a lot of you playing the game. So if there's just a little bit of a quick time event in a game like that, where you're playing for 25 hours of it and watching for 5 hours, I'm okay with that.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, and the good missions are very good. And I would have liked a little more of them, even though the big set pieces I know are insanely expensive to make from a production point of view. But, yeah. How did you like the combat?
I really liked the combat.
Interesting.
I really, really liked it. It was pretty much, I would say, completely stolen from Batman without a shadow of a doubt. It feels like the next iteration of that combat system. It feels like they almost consulted with Rocksteady. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
About the combat system, because it just feels like they've taken that and they've just added a couple of layers. But what I loved about the combat system was the integration of gadgets. I think that's what gave the combat system so much variation, is when you started to figure out how to use your pretty large arsenal of Spidey gadgets. And when you start to bring all of those into combat, there was just a lot of ways to tackle combat. I will say the only thing I didn't really like was fighting the mercenary guys near the end.
Oh, yeah, the flying boys. Yeah, I did not like them.
Yeah, they were like too visually the same for me. And sometimes you can't hit them because they have armor on, and then you like knock their armor off, but then I'd get confused when there's 6 of them, and I would try to hit the non-armor guy.
And they're up in the air, like above you, out of view as well,
Yeah, they were the only guys who I didn't really enjoy. But apart from that, I really enjoyed the combat. I thought it was fluid, pretty easy to learn. I was actually getting my ass kicked at the beginning of the game. About 3 or 4 hours in, I got to grips with it a lot.
That was... that's another thing I think they could have done better. The beginning of this game is a lot.
It's rough.
In 20 minutes, you have your full move set, and everything basically except your gadgets is told to you. And all the enemy types are introduced basically in the first like half an hour. And I was completely overwhelmed by the combat for the first while in the game. The Batman games...
I was getting owned.
Batman games were really good at, like, you're fighting this... Okay, here's the basic enemy. You fight just the basic enemy for, like, 45 minutes. And then they put in... Here's one new type, and you fight both of them. And then here's the heavy guy, and then here's the shield guy. You know, and they slowly dole that out over, like, 6 hours. Whereas this, it was just, like, 30 minutes in, you know... Here are your 50 different moves, and I was like, holy shit, cut away, whoa.
Yeah, here's how to slide under shields, and here's how to jump off of walls. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And then... So I played a lot of the Batman games. I don't know if I think we've talked about it before. Asylum and City, I've played those games quite a lot last generation. And so I had a big problem with the Spider-Man combat because of the Batman combat. I had to, like, spend a long time unlearning.
Rewiring your...
Yes, yes. Because in Batman, the Y button, or aka the triangle button, is counter. But in Spider-Man, it's circle. And
okay, yeah.
It took me probably 10 hours before I stopped fucking up the dodge. Okay. And so that meant for, like, about 10 hours... I wasn't very much enjoying the combat at all. And that's not really a fault of the game, it's just a fault of the way my brain was wired to interact with this style of combat. Because it is, for all intents and purposes, identical.
Yes.
The whole game is a Batman game, except it's Spider-Man. Like, it's structurally, like, you know, it's they looked at Batman and they're like, well, let's just do that. Except, you know, our own. And that's a little reductive, but, like...
A little bit.
But, it, you know, they are not hiding their inspirations from Batman, which is fine. Those games were tremendous, and they, like, changed the... They established basically a new genre, right, of, like, open-world superhero games. Once the combat clicked, I would say I still never loved it. I definitely could... I definitely... started to enjoy it a decent amount. I especially liked the ability that lets you chain takedowns at least once, and you, like, build up your focus meter really quickly so you can just, like, do takedowns over and over again. I like that. I think there are too many gadgets. It sort of suffered that, like, problem that we've talked about many times where it's like, there are all these tools at my disposal, but I'm just going to use the one that works really easily every time, which is the electric web and, like, the web bomb.
So good.
You know, and I would just use those.
Yeah, there was a... Oh, you didn't use the impact web? The impact web was amazing.
Oh, and that one, yeah. That's the,
God,
like, you have, like, 4 shots, right? And it would, like, shoot them across.
And it flings them and sticks them to the wall.
Those are the 3. Good. I pretty much only ever use those 3. There were 2...
Yeah, there were few which kind of achieved the same goal. They just, like, web everyone. And it's like, well, I'm just going to use this one instead.
Yeah. There were 2 gadgets that I only unlocked, like, long after I had beaten the campaign. One of them, like 0G, I don't know, like, lifts them into the air.
Yeah, that's kind of useful for crowd control. You chuck that down and it kind of sticks them in the air for a bit.
Yeah, and I never touched the mines ever. I think there were...
Again, you can actually, if you stick a mine to someone and they walk in front of an enemy, it sticks them together, taking out 2 people.
Oh, that's handy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was handy.
The gadgets, like, there's a lot of variation to the combat, I think, and a lot of different ways for you to play the combat, which is great. But it was sort of one of those unfortunate cases where I just sort of stuck with what works, and what works were, like, the first 3 things you got. But I did definitely start to enjoy the combat in the last, like, 6 or 8 hours, when you start to get, like, really overpowered, and you're just chaining combos, you're chaining takedowns, everyone is webbed up.
There's just a couple of skills you get which make you really, really powerful. Like the one where if you successfully dodge a bullet, you can instantly take down those guys.
Right.
That one's a game changer.
Yeah.
Especially with those goddamn... I keep forgetting the name of them. What's the name of the last group?
Sable? Sable.
I think so. Those assholes.
Yeah.
It was the only time I got frustrated at the game is those outposts. God, those guys were annoying.
Yeah, I was surprised that I got frustrated many times throughout the game with the combat. Okay. But I don't think it's because the combat was bad. I think it was primarily because of my wired, you know, Batman muscle memory. And I do think I definitely like the Batman combat more because I feel like you get into this sort of like meditative trance flow with Batman, where you're just like punch, punch, dodge, 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 punch, 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 dodge, punch. You know, and there's like you're fighting like 50 guys, and they're all just running at you. And
I would say I got into that in Spider-Man.
That's good. That's cool. I never really quite got there, but it's good to hear that you did.
There was times where I took down entire hideouts without taking a hit.
Wow.
Because I got into like a zen flow. Not the disabled guys; they were fucking impossible.
Yeah.
But some of the early ones were like the prison riot guys. I don't know. I felt good.
That's good.
Good
No,
at it.
that's great.
It makes you feel powerful.
Yes.
Sometimes unstoppable at times.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got into that flow, and I loved it.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I'm glad. Again, yeah, it was primarily just a history with other games that fucked me up.
That's fair.
Yeah, they're really smart. You have all those suits have an ability, and once you unlock the suit, you can just use that ability whenever without the suit. That was really smart.
Yes, without the suit, yeah, that was smart.
What game was it? There was some game recently where they didn't do that.
I don't know.
I can't remember what it was. It wasn't God of War. I don't know. Anyways, there was one game in the last like 18 months where you were like unlocking things, but you had to use the thing to use the ability. And Spider-Man, yeah, very smart of them to just be like, hey, you can just use whatever ability you want once you've unlocked it.
I like that they went stupid with those suits. That's just a small compliment. They went really dumb with them, and it's good fun.
Yeah, and I would never wear them for the story missions, but
yeah,
the only one that I wore for the story mission was when you go to like a Halloween party, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna put on a different suit for the Halloween party, you know.
You're so immersed.
Exactly. But yeah, the suits are really good. There's some very good late game suits. Although one of the first suits you unlock is the Noir suit, where he has a revolver on his hip, and I really like that one.
Yeah, there's some really good ones in there.
Yeah, I think the last other major thing that I have a problem with this game is like I said early on, there's a lot of stuff in the game.
Yeah,
and I was a bit go ahead.
surprised about the amount of ubification, I would say, in the game.
Yeah.
I was a bit nervous when the game starts out with towers. That was a bit like, oh, fuck, here we go. And out of all of the side quests that I can think of from memory, the towers are the only ones that, from a context point of view, don't really make sense in a Spider-Man game. I think they were trying to slow down the map icon crisis, because if you unlocked everything from the beginning, it would be overwhelming. They actually dish out these streak of side quests as you progress in the main story, and they sometimes unlock randomly via side quests, so the map isn't cluttered. It gets cluttered. But
oh yeah, it's not immediately cluttered.
Yeah, but the towers starting off is very strange. It just doesn't really make sense. You're going around fixing police towers to unlock the map, and that's when I got a bit nervous. But I would say most of the other side quests and activities in the game make sense in the context of Spider-Man. He's doing like little chores to help the civilians. The crime system makes complete sense because that's what he does. He does small time stuff. Some are better than others, like fetching pigeons is like, does this make sense? And some of the Harry Osborn eco-warrior quests are like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
But the thing is, so they really stand out as like immersion-breakingly weird. But they're so... That felt like, to me, the area where the developers wanted to experiment. Because I don't know if you did all of them, but some of them are very strange. There's one... The weirdest one is when you're like connecting these cell towers, and there's like this wall of electricity on the bottom of the map and in the sky, and you have to like swing within this small window, otherwise you get zapped.
Yeah.
And it was so strange. But I think the developers just wanted a small area where they could be like, let's try different gameplay mechanics. And I think I even pointed out to you in Discord that it reminded me a bit of the optional realms in God of War.
Yeah.
Where the developers wanted to be like, what can we do with this system? Let's put it over here, away from the main story. And those science quests were just a little bit out of the ordinary, but some of them were like, this is a creative use of web swinging that I wouldn't have thought of, that worked kind of well. And some of them were a bit like, why am I spraying stuff on fish?
I don't think I did that one.
There's some really strange ones in there.
Yeah, God of War, I remember you messaged me, and God of War felt really cohesive with all of its stuff. All the stuff in that game. It's like, all this, maybe unnecessarily, like, makes a lot of sense in the world and, like, the story and lore and all that stuff. Spider-Man, it just sort of feels like they just threw a bunch of shit in there. We're like, whatever, just go for it.
A little bit, yeah.
And I don't really like any of it.
Not any of it?
Nah, I did like I think I did like 3 or 4 of every, you know, type of thing, like the Harry Osborn, the Taskmaster, the pigeons, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I did all the pipe dream hacking mini games.
Yes, the science stuff ruled.
I don't know why that's in there, but you can. There's a bunch of pipe dream mini games that you can do to get XP. I did all those.
I think they were in Ratchet and Clank as well. I think Insomniac just likes
probably. There's 2 different mini game, like hacking mini games.
I quite like the weird Spectrum lights.
Yeah, I enjoyed those. I did all of them.
Yeah, me too.
But all the open world side stuff, I did like 2 or 3 of each of them, and it was kind of like, okay, like I think I'm good.
The thing is, they had to.
Surprising.
They had to figure out a way where, why do you have to swing around loads?
Yes.
You know? Because if they just did the main storyline, a lot of it isn't swinging. A lot of it is cinematic stuff where you're doing something different.
Yeah.
So they had to be like, how do we make you swing everywhere, and then involve lots of activities which make you swing around, because that's what you do with Spider-Man. Yeah. And they did. And some of them are better than others.
One of the side quests is great, where you are working basically for a crazy Twitch streamer, which I thought that was a really funny quest.
Fun little perspective puzzle, which I thought were pretty unique.
Yeah. But all of the side stuff. There's also like a Twitter feed in that game. Like there's
there's
a lot of just, like I said, there's just a lot of stuff in that game, and none of it's bad. I don't think any of it is bad. I just don't
Except for the stealth stuff.
Well, yeah, aside from the stealth stuff. But I don't think any of it is exceptional, and I think there's maybe a little too much of it. And I think it's a game that when they make the sequel, because you can bet your ass they're making a sequel, they'll refine all that substantially and figure it out and make like a way better game in terms of like side stuff and just sort of flow and cohesion, I think.
It's gonna. Oh, the sequel's gonna be something.
Yeah. Because I mean, you know, they're gonna make another one.
Yes, I mean they nailed the story.
Yeah,
most of the missions they nailed.
Traversal,
which is the hardest part, is down.
Yeah, and I would say the combat more or less there. It'll be nice to. They're doing a new game plus, and I feel like I might play a little bit of that because, if only just to like replay the opening in not the most shitty. Like I died so many times in the first like 2 hours of that game. But yeah, they more or less like nailed the core things you need. And then they just have to like just refine it a little bit, you know, smooth out those edges here and there. But it was a tricky game, I think, for me. I really like Spider-Man. But then there were like a lot of small times where I was like, man, fuck this game. And that was mainly just because I was fucking up the combat over and over again.
I don't think I ever reached that stage.
No.
It was just, there was ups and downs. Some pacing issues because of the amount of side quests. And maybe just a little bit too much stuff going on. Yeah.
There were more downs, quite a few. There were a lot more points where I was down on the game than I ever thought would be the case. But it was never, like, substantial or long-winded. Because 5 minutes later, there'd be, you know, I'd just be swinging, or there'd be a great story thing. And I very much liked Spider-Man. But it was just, I was a little surprised by how many times I was kind of like, oh, man, just, I wish this was slightly better, but it's none of the big things that I wish were slightly better. It's all just small things, so it's pretty easy to forget about those small issues. Yeah,
I came away very, very much enjoying the game.
Yeah,
the thing that I wanted to be good, which was the swinging, was flawless. Maybe.
Yeah.
I do have one note about the swinging. I really would have liked, and I didn't even check, but I don't think this is a thing. I really would have liked if there was an option in the options where you could almost activate a hard mode for swinging where it was possible for you to hurt yourself. Because you cannot swing into traffic. You cannot fail, actually, with swinging. It's impossible. There's no full damage. You cannot swing into, like, a crane and bonk your head. You cannot swing into oncoming traffic.
Right.
And I really, really wanted to swing between traffic. That's one thing I really wanted to do. I wanted to recreate the movie thing where I go in between the car, or I wanted the bit where I'm swinging really low and I just miss a truck. But you can't do that because there's like a barrier where the game auto-guides you away from it. And I understand that decision because they want you to feel good as Spider-Man. Because the game is set like quite far into Spooderman being Spooderman.
Yeah.
So I understand why he doesn't take full damage, which I actually think is a good decision because no one likes full damage.
Spider-Man. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But maybe just like a little thing in the options where I can turn off the safety rail. So if I'm bad at swinging, I can bonk my face into a car.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a really nice bonus.
Yeah.
Not essential. It's definitely a nitpick. But I just wanted that moment where I'm like swinging and I just missed something. I like scrape by and I was like, oof, that would have been satisfying.
Yeah. Because it is really fun to just dive in until the last second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swing out of it. I was just going to say also, the only times where I thought the traversal wasn't great was when you have to be really precise with it. When you're like, you need to like stop your swing and land somewhere, and you're like, oh, you completely overshoot it, you know. Or climbing up a wall. Sometimes the wall climbing would be kind of weird, and like I would have trouble jumping off the wall. Like X and circle would, I'd have to hit them like tons of times. It's like, just get off the wall, Spider-Man. Like, it's just but like you so rarely encounter that. Like for the most part, you don't have to be precise with the swinging, which they know. You know.
Did you find any like the hidden animations, like the one where you climb up the fire escapes and you're like hopping in between them?
Oh yeah.
And there was one, which I found, I only saw once, which was almost reminiscent of in Spider-Man 2, where he's on the train and he dives like through that little gap.
Oh yeah. Oh,
in slow motion. I found one of them on a rooftop where there's like a, I don't know what to call it, a cover over like a garden party, and he does that little animation where he like zips through it. And I was like, wow, neat. I don't know if that's common, but I've only found it once.
That's another area where the game is just like, that game, you know, they spent a lot of money making that game because there's just so much custom stuff everywhere. Yeah.
And I think the only last little nitpick I have is for the amount of time that you have your face pressed up against windows, there's a lot of just like cardboard interiors. And I thought they could have just used a bit more visual trickery. Just like make it reflective. Like there's a lot of strange times where you're climbing a building and you can see like a paper chair. And it's like, but the rest of the game looks so stunning that it's a bit jarring. I don't know if you ever saw some of those paper mache rooms.
Yeah, they're like cube map rooms, Yeah,
it's like, as I understand, like, you know, memory.
They look great when you're swinging.
Allocation. Yeah.
But when you're climbing up the building, you're like, oh, this is the same.
Like made them like hyper-reflective glass, so you don't see anything but like Spider-Man's reflection.
Yeah.
But again, it's nitpicking, but the rest of the game looks so good that it's just something that stands out when you're climbing a building.
Because there are lots of nice shiny buildings in that game where you see a nice reflection. Yeah, those weird like copy-pasted rooms. Yeah. They look great when you're swinging, but when you stop and look at them, you're like, oh my god, what is this? And same with the... Never forget the boat people.
What were they thinking with the boat people?
Why would you be out near a boat when you're Spider-Man?
Everyone is going to try and swim out to the boat. That's the first thing I did.
What? What is wrong with you?
Well, I saw the boat and I was like, I want to get on the boat.
I've only seen screenshots of it. I've never done it in game. I'm like, I don't care.
I went straight into the water. I was like, I got to get on this boat. And I was like, oh my god, what the hell is this?
Yeah, they look really crazy.
Really strange. Just make them like way further out. Weird decision. But anyway, we're just nitpicking. The majority of the game is good.
Spider-Man's good, yeah.
The open world feels a little bit like they observed Ubisoft and kind of pieced their own stuff together, and some of it isn't necessary. I think the crime system is great because that's what Spider-Man does. He swings around.
It's a little repetitive, but it makes sense. Yes. Like, crimes happen every day, all the time, all over the place, you know?
Yes.
And they're usually the same.
He's solving the crimes.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit too many side quests. There's a shit ton of outposts. I think there's like 4 different types. One for the goons, one for the weird... I can't remember what they're called. The negative guys. It's one for Sable and one for prisoners, like 4 different types of outposts.
Oh yeah, one for the what are the demons?
The demons, yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of that. Story is great. Game looks fucking incredible. Best game I've probably ever seen. But that's a bit biased because it's the first game I played on my PS4 Pro on my new TV.
Yes. Yeah. Good job, Insomniac. I'm happy for them. They deserve it.
Yes. It's a great game, and with a bit of spit and shoe shine, it could be a masterpiece by the second game.
Yeah. As long as they make Ratchet and Clank between.
Yes.
That's the only stipulation. You're not allowed to make Spider-Man 2 until you make Ratchet and Clank 27 or whatever it is.
Yeah. That was a long talk. Well, there was a lot. There was a lot in Spider-Man, but there will be less in Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because it's pretty much just the 3rd game in the reboot series. The end of a trilogy, essentially.
Thank God.
And, whoa. Wow. Starting off negative over here. I liked Tomb Raider, okay?
Which one?
This one, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I've liked the whole trilogy.
Yeah, you did.
And there isn't, if you know the previous 2 games, there isn't really much to add to it except for there's more tombs.
I guess, yeah.
There's a lot more tombs.
And it's in the jungle?
It's in the jungle. I've always really liked the tomb stuff in these games. My favorite part of the previous 2 games are the optional tombs.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're actually raiding a tomb. And I like puzzles. I like environmental puzzle solving. And I think these are great. I like how I've jumped into Tomb Raider straight into the side quests. Because we're going to talk about the story. That's its own little chunk. And that's going to be an interesting chat. So I just want to start outside Tomb Raider. I played on the PlayStation, so the shooting really felt like ass to me.
Yeah, thankfully there's only about 7 combat encounters in the game, so...
Yeah, I just have not been playing a lot of console over the last couple of years, so man, did I suck at the shooting in this game. Bow and arrow was like, I couldn't use it for about 4 hours.
Just
couldn't hit a single shot. I did.
It's so much easier. I spec'd, like, early on, I'm like, all right, I'm going to use the bow. You know, I'm going to spec into the bow. And then, like, by the 3rd combat encounter, I'm like, oh, fuck this. I just pull out the machine gun, and, like, you know, you shoot one clip and everyone's dead in the combat. It's like, okay, why would I? And that's just like with a default unupgraded machine gun. You just like dump and they're all dead. It's like,
you get it so early as well.
Why would I spend upgrades on anything for combat when the combat is so easy and infrequent? Anyway.
Yeah. I just want to say that
jumping ahead a touch.
A little bit, but I just want to say that the core of this franchise I've always really, really enjoyed. I like exploring. I like climbing. And I like environmental puzzle solving. I don't really think many games do it like Tomb Raider does it. They just give you this big open room and you have to figure it out. It's kind of like an escape the room thing. And I just like that. I find it so logically satisfying. And in this game I played the puzzle stuff on hard mode, so no clues for me.
Right.
And some of them were pretty difficult on hard mode.
Yeah, because the last 2 games, I mean, I only really played Rise, but like... I mean, yeah, it's a puzzle, but the reality is you're just going to hit your detective vision, and then you see the glowy thing, you're like, oh, I just have to interact with that, you know.
Yeah, but I turned it off.
Yeah. That dynamic difficulty stuff is really cool, and it's something that I wish more games would do, because you can do you can separate combat, puzzle, and exploration difficulties. And that's that's a really smart thing.
Yeah, it really is.
That's something that I would like to see more games do. You know, like I wish Assassin's Creed, like let me put the combat on like baby mode, and let me like, you know, maybe have the climbing more involved, you know, something like that. I would like that in more games. So
yeah, it's a cool idea.
Yes.
I think this game has the best platforming stuff out of the previous games.
Really? Okay, that's
I really liked it. There's a lot of it. There's some cool main story stuff. The totem pole is very iconic. I think it's been used in all the trailers. That's a very cool sequence.
The totem pole? What
is that? It's a giant, crazy totem pole with spikes swinging around, and you've got to jump from thing to thing. And it's a long puzzle sequence.
I don't remember that at all.
What? It's like this giant bow, and you're climbing it, and like it has arms that spin around, and some of them are spiky.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Right, yes. I do remember that.
There's some great stuff like that.
I was gonna say that one of the other game mechanics that I've turned a corner on this year, Shadow and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I don't want to climb things anymore.
Okay.
Because it's completely mindless. I
know, but I still like it.
No, I know, and like I remember really liking it in Uncharted, just because the controller feel was really nice. You would reach your hand out, and then you get that little vibration when you grab onto something, and you keep, and I was like, oh, this is. But I've hit a point, and I hit it with Tomb Raider. I was like, I'm just so bored of this climbing stuff. You hold the forward button, and then every like 10 seconds you hit A, or you hit X, or you hit X and then A, and then I'm like, and I was just. I've just crossed the threshold with it. I'm like,
no,
I don't want to do this ever again.
It's just like
it's so mindless. It just feels like
so
bloat, like unnecessary filler time, basically.
I've always found it something so satisfying about like slowly climbing your way from A to B and then looking back and be like, wow, I did all of that.
Yeah, and I've totally enjoyed that before, but I hit my point with it this year for some reason, just in this last month. Yeah. Can I maybe back up a tiny bit with the whole Shadow of the Tomb Raider thing? I didn't like the first game. I didn't really give it...
Oh, yeah, you didn't. I forgot.
I didn't give it a ton of chance when it was new, but I was really put off by just the tone of it. They're like, well, let's beat up Laura, and it's so self-serious. And I was just like, I'm not in the mood. And then I played Rise, and I really liked Rise. And that game is, of course, also too self-serious, and the writing is bad. But it was a fun game to play. Good puzzles. The combat was whatever. It had lots of nice environments, and it was a fun, gamey-ass video game. That was a video game-ass video game. Same with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And I went into Shadow of the Tomb Raider really... I was really ready for it. I was like, hell yeah, just another fun, comfy video game-ass video game. And I played like the first 2 hours of it in one sitting. I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm gonna play the heck out of this game. I hated Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh.
I hated it.
What? Really?
There's so many weird little things that fit into each other, that interlock into each other to make me just really not like it at all.
Interesting.
And it was fascinating to play it. The biggest, well, maybe we should really save the biggest thing for a little later, which is the story.
Okay, I don't really have a lot to comment on it outside the story because it's just the same as the other two games from my perspective.
Okay, so I'll say it. I mean, it's been very, this is a very self-serious franchise, unnecessarily self-serious, but that's fine. They can do what they want. This game is like comically self-serious, in a way that is just baffling to me.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
And I was fine with the self-seriousness of Rise because it didn't really infect the other parts of that game. Like, you go into the tombs in Rise and you're like, oh, it's a nice like cathedral, an abandoned cathedral, and you do the puzzle, or it's a weird forgotten cave system, and you do the puzzle. But the self-seriousness of this game has bored its way into every nook and cranny of the game. Every tomb is this miserable, disgusting, bloody, corpse-riddled shit show. Like, every...
yeah, the tombs.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. But, like, it's so weird. Like, initially, the stories, sets up Laura as, like, oh, maybe she's going to be... Maybe they're going to sort of, like, vilify her a little bit, which is an interesting idea. Something they did well in Uncharted 4. I mean, it was very mild in Uncharted 4, but it's like, hey, Nathan Drake, he's a flawed human being, and we're gonna look into that, and that was good. And Shadow, they're like, hey, maybe Laura is a shitty person, which she is. She's garbage. Yeah. And then they're like, and then they like really go places with that, where they're like, she's like rising out of the water like it's apocalypse now, and like slitting someone's throat.
Weird.
I was cackling during that scene because That was like my breaking point with the game, with the story, was that scene where it's like it was so embarrassing how self-serious it was, and then they just eventually just say, whatever, it doesn't matter, let's just forget about that and end the game. But like the self-serious, it's just, I really got super tired super quickly of how miserable the whole game is. It's like, it's so, there's just the like bone rattling in the music, and like every tomb, like I said, every tomb is just like corpses and death and misery, and it's dark, and there's like spooky music playing, and
it's always been like that though.
No, it's not. There were tombs in Rise that were like, here's a mining, like an abandoned mine, but it's, and you know, like there can be a couple of corpses around, but like you're crawling through like corpse pits and corpse piles, and there's like severed heads and rotting flesh, and I get it, it's the jungle, and the jungle is evil and miserable. It's kind of like,
I can't remember what it was like. Was it Mayan or something? There's like lots of sacrificing and
there's lots of totally. Like it makes sense for where they are and what they're doing, right? But like, I just wanted it to maybe chill the fuck out a little bit, and it never did. Like there's a long sequence in this game where you're fighting like the orcs of Moria.
Well, they're humans, but yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, they're just guys.
They don't look like guys. They look like goblins.
Yeah. That's because they've been in a cave for hundreds of generations.
That part was really bad, by the way.
Yeah, they're not the best enemies to fight. They're just gross humans.
But yeah, so it felt, the game was, it was just the endless self-seriousness of it made me long for Uncharted.
Okay, yeah.
I was just like, can't we just like just for like 5 minutes put the foot on the brake pedal a little bit and just be like, all right, let's just like have a little moment of fun or levity at any point. No, everything is miserable. Which I found that to be very, so that was a major thing.
Well, there's the part we get to that, like, not deserted, that old lost city. And that's, like, colourful, and there's, like, kids running around.
Like, that's sort of nice. Yeah, yes, that hub area is amazing, by the way. It's huge and full of stuff, and that area is nice. But then there's, what was I going to say? Fuck. I also found that sort of is disconnected from the other thing, but, like, the environmental variety I started to get really bored of very quickly.
Very jungle-based, yeah.
You're in the jungle, and you never leave it for a second. Everything is just, it's trees, and then you go into a dark tomb, and it's just, you know, old stone structures with vines on it. And I remember Rise having, you know, there was like the wintry area, there was the geothermal valley, there's some sort of more industrial, like Russian constructions, there's some, you know, old Catholic stuff in there. But this, by like, I only played it, I think I only have like 12 hours of playtime, because the story I found actually quite short. It only took me like 8 or 9 hours, because I just sort of pushed through it to hopefully get it out of the way. But by like 5 hours in, I was like, oh man, can we see something just a little different? And they never do, which again, like, it makes sense for the story and where they are, but I just was like really tired of seeing the jungle a lot sooner than I thought I'd be. Even though the game looks tremendous, like it really is a gorgeous game throughout.
Yes, the frame rate was lagging on the PS4 in the big city.
Sure, yeah.
A little bit of a chugging, but apart from that, it looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, really nice looking game. But the self-seriousness in tandem with the tiring out of the environments led to me not really caring about exploration all that much, because every time I went somewhere, it looked the same.
I didn't really explore that much except for the optional tombs, because they've always been my favorite part of the franchise.
Yeah, and I
did all of those.
I did not. I did maybe 4.
Did you hit the ship one?
Nope.
Oh, well, okay.
I mean, I do have to play a little more to capture footage, so maybe I'll see that one. I don't know where
There's
it
a
is.
giant, like, pirate ship one. It's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to find that one and do that then, because that sounds like something different than a giant corpse pile
there's
with
a
blood
few,
everywhere. And
a few of them were pretty varied. There's one which like an aqueduct and you're changing water levels. That was a good one.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. And then there's the combat thing, which there's not much combat in the game, which I think...
No.
In theory and in execution is quite nice because the combat has never been appealing in those games. It's been like whatever, you get it out of the way and get it done. But that leads to a surprising issue of I have no reason to upgrade anything, and I have nothing to spend my collectibles on. Right? I was at maximum everything. In terms of like arrows and healing, I had a full inventory like 2 hours into that game, and I never used any of it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I would use the other stuff for upgrades, but then I never used any of the things that I had upgraded because the combat is so infrequent. So it led to me not really caring at all about the skill tree because none of the skills do anything that are useful because there's no combat, and I was surprised by that because I remember like I basically 100%ed Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow. By the time I had finished the story, I was like, man, I never want to play this game again.
One thing I did like about the combat is, I think if this was in Spider-Man as well, where they put in this almost easy mode stealth system where it tells you if other people can see one of the enemies, so you can take them out with no consequence. Which makes it super easy mode, but for me it makes it very satisfying when you can clean up a whole base very easily, just in stealth mode, because I didn't like the gunplay.
The problem with that stealth, though, is that it takes really long. You have to sort of sneak around.
Sometimes.
I found the most efficient solution to just...
skills where like you can plant bombs on a body and stuff like that. You have the poison arrow, which makes them go loopy. That's when it gets kind of fun to be stealthy.
Yeah, I didn't engage with any of that because it took too long when you could just pull out your gun and shoot everything, and 30 seconds later it was over. There's just a lot of weird, small design decisions that sort of resulted in me like not engaging with like what feels like more than half of the game. I just didn't touch it, like because it didn't matter. Like why would I do the tombs when like
because they're good puzzles?
Sure, like that's the only, but like I don't have much motivation now to, explore the environments or to see those puzzles because of the issues I talked about earlier. And they might give you gameplay things, but it's like, well, the gameplay doesn't matter. It's like you have all these like craftable, armor pieces, and you can get like better perception or you can get more stuff from hunting, but it's like I didn't touch any of that stuff because why would I? It doesn't matter.
Well, a lot of times I assume these mechanics are there for people who are playing on hard mode.
Maybe, but
when I see that stuff, I always assume it's for those guys.
Yeah, it was weird just playing it. Like they switched developers. This is a different studio that did this game from the first two games, and it just something's just off with, not just with the story and the mood, let's say, of the game, but just the like mechanics. They don't all feed off of each other. Like a good. I found. In my play, I was just like, I barely touched most of the things that are in the game because I couldn't think of a reason why I would engage with them, which was surprising. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider was like really fucking weird to me. Like I'm so shocked by how much I hate this game. Like
I'm sure you just like weren't in the right mindset for this type of game.
Well, possibly, but I can't stress enough how off-putting I find everything about the tone of the game to be. It's just, I never felt like it was fun. And I don't know why. Maybe I went in expecting to have, I don't know. The last thing I played like this was Lost Legacy, right? Which was like a blast. But it was just, I was like tired of the combat. Not the combat, the climbing. I was just like, this is just a waste of time. And the story stuff is terrible. And the environments weren't fun to explore. So I just sort of, it's like everything, I had like one problem with everything, and that would like cancel out something else. And it resulted in me just like bouncing off of every single aspect of the game. And I think it all sort of comes back to the tone of it, which was so off-putting to me, which is sort of why I bounced off the first game. Now I'm wondering, like, did I accidentally like Rise of the Tomb Raider? I don't even know. I'm so confused.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you just hate Tomb Raider.
Fucking, I don't know. It's so confusing to me because I was really looking forward to it and really liked Rise. I'm baffled.
I can kind of see the complaints, but when in comparison to liking Rise,
I know that's the thing.
Yeah, it's not that far from Rise at all.
No, that's the thing. Like, mechanically, the game is identical. Like,
yeah,
this game is just Rise of the Tomb Raider in the jungle and with a miserable, sad, like depressed tone, and that's it. Like, it's mechanically like all the menus, all the button prompts, the tutorials. Everything is like pretty much exactly the same. They added a couple of new stealth options and one new option to the climbing with the grapple, but that was it. And like structurally, fundamentally, it's identical to Rise, but I just bounced right off of it, like super bounced off of it. Yeah.
I like the gameplay. Except for the shooting stuff. I like the way it played. I like exploring tombs. I've been with the Tomb Raider franchise since the first game, back on the PlayStation 1, so I just always have liked the little logical puzzles, and I liked having it on hard mode, and having to look at a rope and almost backtrack it with just my eyes to figure out where something is going, and like how the hell is anything going to interact with. Oh, I just figured something out. I just like puzzles and climbing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, there's lots of that. There's a lot of tombs and there's lots of climbing stuff. Like, I really like that they pushed very far away from the combat. I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
And I wish, more games would be like, hey, it's all right if you're not murdering every 20 minutes. Like, it's okay, just...
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Some of the side quests were really boring.
Yes.
It's like I did a couple. You're just talking to these people in a village.
Yeah.
Some of them do lead to you going to like little areas of the jungle and actually doing stuff. But there were a couple just talking side quests where you're talking to people, and I was like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
About your problems.
Yeah.
You're in a lost city. Figure it out.
Yeah. They also like, I don't know if you noticed, but like, I didn't miss this. I don't think they set up like 3 big sort of apocalyptic events, right? They set up, like, there's the flood, and then the earthquake, and then the volcano, and then the eclipse. Yeah. They sort of forgot about that, and just sort of, I feel like they took the third act of the game and made it 30 minutes long. Because you go to that other village, right? The little town.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that town sequence, you suddenly are escaping like a colossal landslide / pyroclastic flow from a volcano, and they I
don't remember.
And you're like escaping the village as it's like crumbling around you, and then you jump on a boat with Jonah.
Oh, yes.
And then the next scene is just them puttering back to the town, to the like main big hub.
Yes, that was so weird.
And like no one acknowledges it, and there's no explanation whatsoever for what happened. And then
I was really
you just go to the end of the game, and there's like
you're
a final
with Jonah,
mission.
and then he's like, "Go on without me," and then you go on without him,
and then the whole town explodes,
and then you're just back on the boat with him. I was like, "What the fuck? Where'd you come from?"
And the earthquake and the volcano never happen.
I think that was the earthquake,
or they both happened in that scene. I don't know. I was so lost. And then there's just like a final mission where you like absorb the power of the sun or some fucking crazy bullshit.
Yeah, okay, let's get into the story, because we need to talk about the story. Sometimes I can be really bad with following stories. I have a really bad habit of on my
zone out.
On my PC setup, I have a really bad habit of sometimes like putting on a podcast or something, because I like to multitask and I like to try and consume multiple things at once to be efficient. But with Tomb Raider, I played it in my comfy lounge on the TV on my PS4 Pro, so just me in the game. And I have no fucking idea what happened in this game.
Yeah, me neither.
Absolutely no clue what the hell was going on throughout the entire thing.
Yep.
I know that there was a silver box that you had to put a dagger in, but I just had no idea what it was supposed to be doing.
Magic.
Because the people kept arguing about what it was doing. I think some people were supposed to be saying like was it supposed to end the world? And then one guy was like, it's going to change the world. And I was like, I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah, do they mean like literally? Like that was what I was very confused about for a long time. It's like, wait, like are they literally? And then yeah, so they started up, and he's like, you got to get this thing from this tomb, you know, as she does, and she gets it, and it's like, oh, you've triggered the apocalypse, and he's like, okay, and I think like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, bud. You don't trigger the apocalypse by raiding a tomb, and then it's just like, no, he's serious because here's this catastrophic tsunami flood, and then. You know, all these other cataclysms are supposedly going to happen. So then you.
Oh yeah, can I just interject and say something?
Yeah.
I don't want to like have this section just be us ripping on the game, because I did like how it played and I liked how the game looked.
Yeah.
But on PS4, the water looked like garbage.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, there's no underwater effects when you're underwater.
I don't know how it looked on PC, but the water just did not look good on PS4. It looked so bad when it was flowing, which is really strange because the rest of the game looked really good. I'm not sure if anyone else saw that, but the tsunami bit, woof, it did not look great.
I didn't notice that.
It might be a console limitation thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, continue.
And then you spend like 6 hours just going to different places, trying to get a thing.
Yeah, so you go to a tomb and the box is missing.
Right.
Which I kind of liked. I was like, oh, she doesn't get her way this time.
Yeah.
But then you just go somewhere else and get it.
Right. And then the game, like, someone hit the fast forward button, and then you're at the end of the game, and he like absorbs the sun into a dagger.
I mean, we have to talk about. I know this is spoiler stuff, but if anyone's playing Tomb Raider, don't play it for the story. It's a complete mess. I really, really like the bit where all the crazy orcs are just on your side and jumping onto helicopters.
That was really stupid.
I thought that was hilarious. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. The story makes... I paid attention. I thought I paid attention.
Yeah, I just didn't understand what the box was supposed to do. I think the tribe were protecting the box.
Yeah.
And then they knew somehow, even though they didn't really speak English, they knew that you were trying to save the box.
Right.
So she put a mask on you. And then in the end, she just points at the altar like, I'm going to kill you. And then she kills you, but then you're not dead.
Right. This all checks out.
I have no idea what was happening.
I do not know.
No idea. I don't know where the sacrifice thing came from. Why did that stop the box?
You might have to write a letter to Square Enix asking these questions because I don't know.
Understand. I know it was about protecting. I think the box was about protecting that city or something. Like they made it to protect this. I don't know. Or he said if the box gets out, the city will be taken over.
I don't know.
Oh,
that's my response to all these questions.
And then at one time he's just like, I killed your dad. I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
You knew too much. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And I know, like, this happens all the time in Uncharted, so I can't really point it out. But when you played like 4 Uncharted and 3 Tomb Raider games, it just, the cliche of you finding the artifact and then the bad guys come and take it from you, it's got so old at this point.
Yeah.
It's like so predictable. Like Uncharted was probably even worse than Tomb Raider, but at this point after playing all them, it's like you get the thing, and then the bad guy, the evil British guy, comes in with a gun. He's like, I'll be taking that from you. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. All right. And then you chase them down and you solve the puzzle for them, and then they just get the thing because they point a gun at you. And it's like, oh, for sake.
Even though you're a fucking sick serial killer who loves guns and slitting people's throats.
Yeah, so the thing that I put down in capital letters, which I told you about before we started the review, is in capitals, ludonarrative dissonance.
Oh no, not that word. Yes.
Unlike I've ever seen in a game in my entire life.
Whew.
Because what the Uncharted games, this is like a meme of Uncharted to the point where they named a trophy after it. And they're almost self-aware about it.
Oh yeah.
Where, you know, he's charming in the cutscenes and he murders 50 people.
Yeah.
And Tomb Raider was the same, where she's killing all these people and she's like lovely Lara Croft and she's kind. Yeah. But they tried to do a thing in the game where they blur the lines where she's being murderous in the cutscenes, but then she's being like lovely and kind to children, and it just doesn't work.
No.
Like, when you are just murdering enemies, you get into the game mode. Like, this is a video game. I'm just doing this for
just don't acknowledge
gameplay.
it. Like,
but then there's bits in the game where she's just like stabbing people like slowly with a knife.
Yeah.
And she like, and it's like the oil rig scene where she's like,
oh my god, that
people.
scene was so embarrassing, Joe.
It was like, oh my god, no. And it
where
seemed
she's
like it was trying to do something.
Like,
with
I'm
the
surprised she
title.
wasn't like licking the blade of her knife after she'd slit someone's throat. Like, that's
It
how
was,
sick she is in this game. Like,
oh my! And then after the oil rig bit, she just like hugs Jonah, and she's like, "Oh, blah blah."
And Jonah's like, "All right, Laura, did you get him?" And she's like, "Yeah, I got him." And it's like, she didn't get him. She like murder bonered them all. Like, she's insane in this game. And
they tried to like blur the line where like the tsunami thing's fine because it was an accident. She just picked up the knife and she killed people. But in the story, she's just brutally killing people.
Yeah,
and it's horrible.
They dabble in it for like 6 hours, but then at the end, they just throw it all in the garbage and are like, "Nah, she's the hero again."
Yeah, and at the end, she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do next, Lara?" "Oh, I'm gonna do an adventure." And it's like, she's crazy.
She is. She's a sicko. Lock her up.
Lock her up. She's nuts. This girl's nuts.
Yeah. I also think this was not something I noticed in Rise, but the voice acting on Lara Croft is really garbage in this game.
It's the same girl, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but just her line reads are very poor.
Okay.
It's not normally something I would complain about in a game because, you know, whatever. It's voice acting. Who cares? Especially when it's the stories like this. But there's just a lot of like weirdly read lines in the game. It stood out to me in a way that it doesn't normally in games. Anyways, they need to lock Lara Croft up in a straitjacket because she loves murder. And she's going to snap one day on civilized society.
God. Ruthless. She's killing people with a knife, slowly. It's horrible.
That scene in the oil rig was where it all broke for me. I was having like an okay time with it up until then. But then that oil rig scene happened, and that was it. That was where it went down the drain for me right there. That scene was a lot.
Yeah, it's wow.
Like, she literally rises out of the water with oil on her face, and there's fire behind her, and it's like, and you know, it's like apocalypse now. And then she like slowly, like Saving Private Ryan, stabs someone in the chest with a knife.
Yeah,
and
then the guy on the beach is like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and everyone's like shitting their pants because Lara Croft, the sicko serial killer of the jungle, is here to end their lives. They even do something that The Last of Us Part 2 seems to be doing, where the enemies call each other by their first names.
Oh, do they?
I don't know if you noticed that, but there's a few times where one of the AI guys would be like, "Whoa, where's Jerry? I was just talking to him." And then it's
Jerry,
like,
my best friend. It's his birthday.
It's like, bud, I just pulled a predator on him and hung him up in a tree by an arrow through his throat. Jerry's dead. Lara Croft has killed him.
Christ, yeah. It
was, you know, again, in theory, interesting potential in exploring the idea that the player character is actually a garbage person. But
they don't really do it.
No,
and it doesn't pay off in any way.
No, every time she goes anywhere and they're like, "Oh my god, Laura, we love you. Here's our ceremonial guard reserved for the highest people of the city. It's yours now," you know. "Oh, look at the kids. They love you, Lara Croft. Like, good thing they don't know your dark secrets."
Yeah. Fucking hell.
No, I think they should retire Tomb Raider for quite a while and bring it back. Embrace the goofiness of the old Tomb Raider. I want my dual pistols. I want a T-Rex. I want snowmobiles. I remember Tomb Raider 2. I played some Tomb Raider 2 long ago.
Yeah, cool.
I fought those wolves on the mountain. I want that back. They need to, not every game needs to be so serious, you know?
No. Well, I liked, could be ripping on this game a lot. I really liked playing.
That's good.
The game, and I liked the side tombs that I did. There was even like crypts, which are like mini tombs, which I liked as well. I enjoyed all that stuff, and I enjoyed a lot of the main quest stuff, which was climbing, tomb stuff, and exploring. Way too much reading on everything you pick up is like 14 paragraphs. I'm like, no.
Yes.
But the story is complete nonsense and garbage.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, I had no idea what the hell was going on.
No.
And it goes from like being Mayan, and then all of a sudden it's like Christianity, and there's like Jesus, and you're doing a Jesus puzzle, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I had no idea what I was doing in that puzzle, by the way. I died like 40 times.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yes. Oh, that one. Yes.
It was just trial and error for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. There was only 3 options per side, and I was just like, well...
Am I missing some logic? I don't get it at all.
Yeah, I have no idea. Never figured it out. Just bumbled my way through it.
I had like a minor point. I had a few like janky moments where like I was trying to jump to stuff, and there was it was like clipping through, and it felt a little bit less polished.
Yes.
Like in the oil rig, there was a ladder to jump to, and I just kept like jumping through it.
Yeah, that escape sequence in the oil rig, I failed numerous times because she just wouldn't jump to the right thing, you know. And
I had that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, what a weird thing. I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning Rise. I don't even know anymore.
I'm surprised because I'm half and half. I liked half the game and I didn't like half the game, but you didn't seem to connect with it at all.
I still think Rise is, well, Rise being the only one I liked, I think Rise is the best in the series.
I do too. I remember a lot of Rise. Like I remember the outro, the ending being really cool as well.
Yes, yeah.
That whole big city.
Like I would really replay Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I think I would theoretically, hopefully, maybe, probably enjoy it. I don't know anymore. Who knows now? And everything is, But, man, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is...
It's a mixed bag.
Sure, yes.
If
Fans of the series will say, it's maybe a mixed bag.
If you like the other two, I think you'll like Shadow. But don't expect it to be like a revolution on the franchise. And don't expect a good narrative. Cause
No.
Unless you like your ancient history, archaeology stuff, maybe.
Which this doesn't have because you fight goblins in it.
I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, it's not like it's a bad game, really.
No.
And it is so similar to the last 2 entries. Yeah, I think if you liked the first 2, you'll probably enjoy this one. Yeah. Huh.
Probably.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I won't touch Rise. I should just uninstall it everywhere and just say, yeah, I liked Rise.
Yeah, don't risk it.
No.
All right. I think that sums up Spider-Man and Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So we're going into Destiny.
Sure. Do I like Destiny too? I don't even know anymore.
God.
So what did we do? We've done many talks about Destiny. We did the PS4 where I talked about it, and then we did PC.
Fuck. God, I can't bother to talk about Destiny.
We did the PC chat. That was, Destiny's been down a road over the last year.
What a fucking mess it has been and continues to be, in my opinion.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Just an absolute mess.
What? Let's jump forward a bit.
Sure.
What do you mean by it still is a mess?
Destiny has absolutely no fucking idea how to please everyone who plays it.
Oh,
it has no idea how to balance the game between people who want to play a little bit and people who want to play a lot. And every single DLC they have messed up in that regards. So where some people who buy it just aren't getting what they paid for.
Well, I think... Oh, go ahead. Continue.
So in Warmind, if you were a casual player who didn't want to engage in the grind, you got like 2 hours of content.
Yes.
And in Forsaken, you get half the content, and then it lets you into the Dreaming City, and it's like you can't fucking play it. Even though we're letting you through the gates, you can't play it unless you do the grinding stuff that casual people don't want to do.
Right.
But take a look. Here's the stuff that you cannot engage with.
But there is a lot more, at least, of the casual stuff, thankfully. Curse of Osiris and Warmind had like 90 minutes.
There's more stuff in Forsaken, which I liked, but they just don't know how to get the balance right of allowing people to do everything.
Got the balance right here in that.
No.
Just a second. In that they got the balance right for people who want to play a lot of Destiny. In that, like, the hardcore, grindy type of way. You
can let people into the Dreaming City and give, like, high-end activities, like strikes. But, like, the whole of the Dreaming City is, like, out of bounds, really. It's like, I can't even run around in it. I just get absolutely destroyed. I can't even do public events.
Yeah. I think...
It's garbage.
I think the first part of your statement was very accurate in that Destiny will never please everyone. And in the last 6 months, they've really started leaning towards, all right, fuck off, casuals. We don't care about you so much anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for people like you. I think it is unfortunate. But they're leaning more towards, hey, you hardcore weirdos that like to play a lot of Destiny, why don't we start building the game for you? Because you're the ones that have stuck through all of the shit. And I think it's probably better if they go that way instead of trying to please you or everyone. I think it's probably better if they just focus on, let's build it for the hardcore.
But like, don't let me in the Dreaming City at all. You know,
it's a bit of a cock tease for you, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like demoralizing. It was like, oh, I hated it. I hated being allowed into it.
That's unfortunate.
It was like being beaten up because oh my god.
It's like, haha, look at this cool stuff that you never will get to play, or maybe in like 6 months.
But you can try, but you're going to get absolutely shit on, and you're surrounded by people. It's like you're being gloated at, really.
Yes.
It's just people just running around doing it, and you can't. You can try the public events, and you can explore the Dreaming City while everything is destroying your face.
I'm trying to think what the word is. It's like it's not like a superiority thing. It's like, well, maybe a little bit, but it's like, God, what is the right word? Gloating is good. It's that sort of, you know, oh, you're only 320 light level? Oh, get out of here, loser.
Yeah,
you know,
everyone's watching you like die over and over again if you try and just walk down a tunnel, and it's like, look, there's a guy over here.
Yeah. Maybe let's just rewind slightly.
Fine.
Destiny 2 at launch, I think, was very smart for a lot of people, right? They made that game very casual friendly, and I think in theory and in execution, that was good for a lot of people. It brought you back. You were able to see everything in that game without grinding. It brought a lot of people back. I think Destiny 2 was at launch was built for the people like yourself who abandoned Destiny 1 after 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Very intelligently, by the way. Like, let's not lie. People like me who have stuck with Destiny for 4 years are sick people, okay? Horrible, tormented garbage boys. Okay, maybe not that far. But, you know, you got out early in Destiny 1, and that was smart, for the better. And then they're like, all right, we want to get those people back for D2. And they did. And that was good. That was a successful endeavor. But the launch of D2 and the first expansion, quote-unquote expansion.
Yeah, Jesus. DLC is a more apt name.
DLC is even maybe a little generous. The casual nature of it proved to be a bad thing in the longer run for the people that really care about Destiny. And it's been neat to see them finally, after 4 years, start to figure it out. Figure out a direction. It feels like now finally they have a vision or a path for what they want this series to be, who they want it to be for, more or less, I think. And the sad reality is it's not for people that play it casually.
Yeah, but I think there is a way to do it. There has to be a way to do it both ways, because MMOs have been doing that for years.
I do think it would, I agree as well. I think it would be cool if there was a way for them to make it so that, you know, oh, you've got your nice like 10 to 15 hours of story stuff, and then maybe they should do like casual endgame and hardcore endgame stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, here's a little raid, or an easier raid, or a raid that's at an easy light level to get to, and then here's the fucking crazy raid that you can grind towards if you want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, like,
because honestly, that's my only problem with the game, is they just don't seem to know how to balance the different people who are playing it. And I totally agree that the people who are playing it the most should get the most content and should be rewarded. I just don't like the way they form it.
And I think, that's totally fair, and totally understandable because Destiny is fun to play, right?
It feels good. And it's got the best, maybe, art design in the industry.
Yeah. And, like, the end game content in those games it's really unique, really cool stuff.
Raids are awesome.
And I think it's a bummer that you and everyone else in our friend group probably won't see that endgame stuff for months, if ever, because
depending on if I can boost my level some way.
Yeah,
then I'll see.
You would hope that like future DLCs will raise the level cap, and you'll be able to sort of bump up to like 5 whatever.
Yeah, it might be a thing where every now and then I just get a craving for a game like Destiny. I remember one time I got so desperate I even played The Division. I put like 20 hours into The Division, but just sometimes you just want to shoot shit for no reason.
Yeah.
So maybe if I get into that mindset again, I'll do a bit of daily stuff in Destiny because I was really in the mood for that type of game when Forsaken first launched.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed like the probably 20 hours I played of Forsaken. So if the mood hits me again, I probably will play more. It was one of those things where I haven't played a multiplayer game in a while because I just haven't really enjoyed Battle Royale, which is just not my pace.
Yeah.
And I don't like playing PUBG, and I don't like the learning curve of Fortnite, so I've just kind of been shit out of luck when it comes to multiplayer games recently.
Yeah.
And I like multiplayer games. It might seem like I don't because I haven't been fucking playing any, but I just wanted to play Destiny.
Yeah.
But I don't want to fucking grind.
And we did. We played lots of Destiny. It was a good time.
It was good.
That campaign's fun.
Days.
Strikes are good, The missions are cool. The environments are cool. The guns are good. The bow is good. But then, you run into the reality of Destiny that they do a very good job of making you forget that it's the reality of Destiny. But the reality is that, like, it's a grinding game. It always has been.
Yeah, but it's so segmented. There's like the campaign and then there's the grind. They're just not blended together and it's weird.
I think that is a structural problem that they've always had where it's just like, play the campaign and then you get to play the other, like the real game, where it's like...
Yeah, I don't really understand like the part of the DLCs where you fly to light level 500, then it goes down to like going up 2 every week. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's really weird in Forsaken how you go from, what were you, like 330, 350 to 500 with literally zero effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get to like, 505, 510 pretty easily. But then from 510 to 600, it's like 100 hours of grinding,
Yeah.
And I think that's great for the people that want that. But that's a huge whiplash, right? Like,
yeah. But sometimes I feel bad because the people who put that time in, if there's another DLC afterwards, then I come in who hasn't done any of that stuff, and I just catch up with them or even overtake them. Like I almost caught up with your light level.
Yeah,
which is nonsense.
As someone that likes to grind in Destiny, it doesn't bother me that
you still get like the guns. You get the guns
and I'm seeing the content earlier, and by the time the new DLC comes out, I want to do the grind again, So it doesn't bother me that you come back to the end game stuff easily, over time. It just
feels like they haven't got it right. I don't know.
And I completely understand that from your desire, your Destiny itch, your play style with it. And I agree. I especially with like the campaign and the flying to 500, and then it just is like flip the switch, turn the grind on, it's just like pull the lever. All right, end of progression. Now you're getting drip feed for 100 hours.
Yeah.
All that being said, Destiny has been a shit show for years, and I love it. I hopelessly, desperately love Destiny, unfortunately. And D2, I liked D2 at launch, and I agree it had many problems, and the first DLC was abysmal, and the first few months of this year were very bad. It was like every week it felt like, oh, there's another Bungie fuck up. Here they go again.
Yeah.
For like all of January, February, and March, it's like fuck up after fuck up. What are you guys doing? But then they like flicked a switch in May, and from May onwards, it's really felt like they have their path set, and it is a path dedicated towards the hardcore, for better and for worse, and they have really done good stuff over the last 6 months, and it's impressive to me how much the goodwill of Destiny's community is able to swing and how quickly it can swing.
Wow.
Because 7 months ago, the community was like, we're done. Destiny's dead. Yeah. We're hardcore Monster Hunter players now, boys. Fuck this Destiny shit, right? And then September 4th it comes out and it's like, just kidding. Destiny, we're back into Destiny. We love it. It's amazing, right? I should say it. Forsaken is, as a hardcore player, the best that Destiny has ever been by a long, long ways. Like, they nailed it for the hardcore people. Sorry, Joe. Forsaken rules. They did so much good stuff with Forsaken.
The thing is, so much of Forsaken just feels like they're fixing what was broken in the first place. And the rest is just more of Destiny. Well, like another wave thing from the last DLC, more strikes, another raid.
They fixed that stuff. Well, go ahead.
I find Destiny comparable to the Star Wars movies. It just never evolves. The only time you see them do anything interesting is in the raids, which I love. You see the raid teams experiment, and they're trying different strange things with mechanics. And then like the biggest expansion comes out, and the only new thing is like a bow and arrow and some new classes and some new zones. What else is?
Well, so I mean, yes, like obviously.
I'm not talking about quality of life or UI things. I'm talking about gameplay stuff.
Well, I mean, gameplay stuff. Well, it's a video game, and it's a sequel industry. Like I mean, the core gameplay of Destiny is never going to change.
Why not?
Why would it? Like Halo's never changed. You know.
But Halo always evolved between them. They got like crazy different things, and it just feels like it feels so limited. And like the only time you see them do anything creative is when you play the raids. It's almost like Whiplash. You're like, wow, you see like the possibilities with what you can do with gameplay mechanics. And then you go back to the core game and it's just shooting a big guy with a yellow bar. And it looks fantastic. But it's just the same shit over and over.
Yeah, I mean, that's video games.
It doesn't have to, but there's different stuff in this video game. In the raids.
Well, they've done a better job, I think, of integrating some of those mechanics into strikes. Like there's that Dreaming City strike that has mechanics, and
but just like they showed it, they brought the bow in, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, and it feels completely different, and it feels like the first time since Destiny 1 where there's been something that feels really different to use. And it's just,
again, the focus is like, for like I don't need anything new added for gameplay wise, you know, and that's where they've steered the ship towards, is like they're going to keep...
Gambit was good. Gambit was a good idea.
Gambit's a cool new thing.
Yeah. It's not really for me, but it's a cool idea. I like that.
Yeah, totally. And they did do new stuff with Forsaken. Like, yes, a lot of it is, hey, we've restored Destiny to how it was 2 years ago. Why did we cut all this shit again in the first place? I don't know. You know, I mean, a lot of it is restorative, and that's very unfortunate. But they have done new things. Good, like there's good quality of life improvements, like the collection stuff is really smart, and you know, that's nice. But they did do new stuff with the end game with the Dreaming City, where it was changing every week. When the raid was beaten, the city started to be cursed. Last week, people discovered at the peak of the curse, there's basically a 3-man raid that had unlocked, and it's like this elaborate 3-man raid that showed up in the Dreaming City. You know, they integrated. What I like about Forsaken that's new is them integrating endgame and like world building, and for the first time, it feels like Destiny is somewhat alive, like an evolving game where it's like, oh, what's happening this week in Destiny? You know?
Yeah, that's cool.
With Destiny 1, I remember my biggest hope when I had started playing it was like, man, I can't wait to see what they do, like what new stuff they turn on every week, right? And then there was nothing. It was like, oh, we turned on Iron Banner. We want to play some PvP? Fuck no. I never want to touch the PvP again. And they never made the world and the game feel alive. Like, you know, we called it a live game, lifestyle game, whatever. It has MMO aspirations, but it's never felt like that. It's always just been like, all right, one day every 3 to 5 months, all the new content comes out and you play it and then, you know, move on.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And for the first time ever, it's felt like, oh, wow, this is evolving and changing. And the Dreaming City was like, oh, there's a new story mission every week. There are new, like, secrets to find. There's this whole other 3-man raid that they hid in there. That's a new type of activity. They call it a dungeon. And it's like somewhere between a strike and a raid. And that was really cool. And I think this week, it's been 4 weeks now since Forsaken, and this is the first time where I think this is the first week where it's like, all right, that's more or less all of the new stuff. But the fact that it was 4 weeks of new stuff is so much better than what they've done in the past. And they have presumably another event. The Halloween stuff will start in like a week or two, and that'll have new stuff to do. And that part of it is what I really like, is like they've made the game feel a little more alive instead of just like, here's the DLC, see you in 5 months, okay, bye. And I can't stress enough like the success with which they have pleased the more hardcore people, and might be
right. That is the most important demographic for them currently.
And pleasing the hardcore is probably at the expense of the casual people, and that is unfortunate. And I do agree. It's unfortunate that you sort of have to say, sorry, but we don't care about you guys so much, and we're not going to cater to you so much, and it's going to be better for us long term. You know, it's unfortunate, I agree, but it is the most I've enjoyed Destiny, and this is definitely the best it has been. And it's a very tricky franchise because it is so friendly to people, right? To a more relaxed, casual audience. And I think that is even maybe part of why they don't add lots of new things to it, is because there's that sort of Call of Duty simplicity to the core loop of just shoot things. It feels real good in that game, right? And I agree. I you know, in an ideal world, yes, they would have some sort of magical solution that pleases everyone, but it's an entertainment thing, and it's a video game, and it's hard to please everybody. And I think
this can't be the best that it can be, though.
It might not be. Like, again, this is the best that Destiny has been thus far, but it's still not perfect. It's still got problems. It still probably has room to grow, and maybe they will still find the magic spot, you know, where it pleases everyone. That'd be pretty cool if they did that. I don't know that they will. I don't know if they can, because
they probably can't.
Yeah, because I mean, look at the shit show of the last 4 years with this series. But
it's just a weird thing for them to take on. They've taken on this new genre, and they just don't really seem to know how to do it, and they're making it up as they go along. Yeah, they are. Yeah. They're laying the road in front of them, and they can barely keep up with it. And most of the times, they don't keep up with that road. But yeah, it's kind of exhausting. And this is someone who's not even really that invested. Just someone who wants to play the stuff that's in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it is a full MMO, which is not my genre, then
don't disguise
it. Don't disguise it as not an MMO. If you know what I mean. It's just like, it's so conflicting playing this game. It feels like a first-person casual shooter with Borderlands loot elements, and then
except it's like this hardcore grind game as well.
Yeah, but it's so like segmented. You just hit a random wall out of nowhere, and it's just like, it's so strange. It's such a weird game. Maybe it's the weirdest format in any RPG thing I've ever played.
I completely 100% understand where you're coming from, and I feel for you because there's a lot of good stuff that you haven't seen and won't see for months, and that's unfortunate.
Or ever.
Yeah, you might not ever see it. But also, like, I think a lot of people should try to come to terms with the idea that maybe Destiny is not actually for them, which is hard to do because it is so friendly so often, you know. But like, as someone that Destiny is for, I would say Forsaken nailed it, knocked it out of the park. I hope they don't fuck it all up again next year. You know.
The thing is with Destiny 3, I just know that it's going to be one of those things where they show it and then they do like a vid doc and they're like, we've done all this and this and this and it sounds all perfect and I know I'm going to play it because Activision gives us the codes because they're lovely to us.
Oh yeah, right, disclosure.
So I'm going to disclosure Activision gives us the code. You can tell we're not biased because I'm shitting. But I'll probably end up playing it, and then I'll want to play it because the game's gorgeous and the music is fantastic and it feels amazing on PC. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like locked out because I don't put in 10 hours a week, and it's just I don't know. I just wish their format was better. I think you can give endgame people stuff to do and make it really clear that hey, you want this stuff, you better be putting in the hours. I think the Dreaming City is my only like real big complaint. I think it's the worst they've ever done the casual hardcore blend. Which might be hard for you to see because you're on the good side.
Yes. I think you're right. I think
you've been on the other side before where they've catered to the casuals.
Yes, they do.
And I've
just put a brick wall in front of you at a certain point, and it's very jarring. I do agree. Yeah, even though
it's not even like a brick wall, it's like a current of ocean, and I can't fucking swim, and everyone else can.
Yeah.
I can try, but I'm just drowning.
Yeah, as someone that didn't, have those problems, I do still completely see where that problem is.
Because you've been on the opposite end of the spectrum, where they've been catering to people like me, and
it sucked.
I walked into DLC 1 like la, played my like 7 hours and just left. I was like, that was sick.
Meanwhile, I'm like looking at Destiny like, I haven't played this game in 3 months. What? This blows. you know?
So that's what I'm saying. They just haven't figured out a way to blend it.
Yeah. And
it's the opposite this time.
And I do think the likelihood of them ever getting a perfect blend is very low.
Yeah,
and as a hardcore player, I agree think that's fine.
that they flipped it in the correct direction.
Yeah.
They should be flipping it towards their loyal fans.
Yeah,
because they're the people that's going to be buying those Eververse things. I'm telling you that.
No, I've never bought an Eververse bundle.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know.
I haven't. I have not. I've given them like $20 or $30 here and there. I mean, we don't pay for the game, right? And Destiny is fucking expensive. That's another thing.
Yeah. If I bought Warmind and I was a casual player, I would have shit my pants.
$20 for like a 90-minute story that was very bad. Would have been It's too pricey, and the flow is still weird. And I hope that they don't do Destiny 3 next year. I think it would be better if they just keep massaging Destiny 2 for a while still.
Yeah, figure it out.
I think it would be cool.
I agree with you. They're getting there.
Yeah,
but it's been so long, man.
I think it would be cool if they saved Destiny 3 for like, next generation or 2020, something like that, and like really do new stuff with it. Because Destiny 2, I mean, the 2 is very generous, right? Like, very generous. I just think if you put like Forsaken side by side with vanilla Destiny 1, you wouldn't think there's been 4 years, No, yeah, I agree. I mean, if you put the Taken King beside Forsaken, you wouldn't see a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you would in like some of the more endgame stuff, right? But like fundamentally, there's not a huge difference between Forsaken and the Taken King. And the Taken King came out 12 months after Destiny 1, and this is 4 years now. Yeah. For many times where it's felt like this is the most disastrous series in video games in terms of the profound mismanagement and fucking things up. But it's nice to feel positive about Destiny again. I hope they don't repeat the cycle a third time, because that would be
incredible.
It would be fascinating to watch, and that part of me would be I would enjoy it, But then the other part of me would be sad again about Destiny. And I like feeling good about games. And I like feeling good about Destiny. Fuck off everyone that's like, Destiny's so bad. I don't care. Maybe you're right. I don't even know, but just let me like Destiny, god damn it.
You can like Destiny.
Thanks, Joe.
Fucking sucks though.
Damn it!
I wish it sucked. It'd be so much easier if it just plain sucked. That would make things way easier.
I agree. It would be so much. I would have so much more time for other games if I didn't play Destiny.
It doesn't suck though. It's really fun and it looks amazing.
It does. The art is so good.
Oh, the art is so good.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway.
Here's hoping we don't even have to have a conversation about Destiny next year because it's just more of the same.
We'll see.
We'll see.
If not, we'll do a year 2 talk maybe if it's still adding stuff.
Yeah, because we don't really know what their expansions are going to look like, and then we don't know what's next year. Signs, I would say, would point more towards another Forsaken/Taken King expansion next year.
Okay.
Like lore-wise, story stuff, it would make a lot of sense to do another big expansion and then Destiny 3 in another 2 years or something.
Well, I'm this far in. I don't know if I'll be playing to the end, but I'll at least be spectating. I'll be seeing what they do.
Or you'll play the end like a year after it comes out when you're in the light level.
So it's fun to run around and shoot stuff.
What happens with the final raid of the final expansion of the final game when there's no way to get there except grinding? You'll never see that.
I will never see that. Unless I can buy. It is Activision. They might give me the possibility of buying.
Just buy your level boost your way to raid ready.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be so gross.
Yeah,
I did play some of the raid, by the way, the new raid.
Okay.
Did the first 2 encounters. It's
honestly, they might allow that to happen like 6 months to a year down the line. I think that's what World of Warcraft does. They like wait a year or so to everyone's like at X point, and then they go, here, you can level boost to 90, and then 100.
If you could pay $10 to get up to raid ready, would you do it?
Yes.
There you go,
100%.
Activision. Ship it.
100%.
Put it in the game.
I would 100% do that to skip all that stuff because I paid $10 just to pay the raid.
Yeah, that's fair. The raids are very good.
It's the best part of Destiny. Some of the best multiplayer shooter fun I've had in years.
Thankfully, we still have that old raid layer to go back to, which we're all over leveled for. So
yeah, and I'll probably play some more as well. I'm on the other side of the fence this time.
Yeah,
I'm the one who's not getting anything. No love from Bungie.
Well, you got like 12 hours.
I want more!
That's fair. That's very fair. Anyways. You should put a moratorium on Destiny chat for the rest of time.
Oh, God. Anyway, let's move on this topic. It makes me miserable.
Yes, we got misery from both of us. It's a good review roundup.
Yeah, it was a long one. There's a lot to talk about.
It was.
Mostly Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man was an hour.
It was, yeah.
There's a lot going on in Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was good. Tomb Raider was so-so, and I don't even know where to summarize Destiny. It's just
Destiny's
abusive.
Great. Yay! Fuck Tomb Raider. Just kidding. It wasn't that bad, but I hated it.
All right. That sums up this one. We will be back in another month to talk about probably Forza and definitely Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't think either of us have much enthusiasm or excitement to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey since I went deep into Origins and it looks like just like another one.
And Call of Duty is a multiplayer only game, so...
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'd be playing Blackout, but whatever. We won't be talking about that.
Yeah.
So that'll be a Red Dead.
Have you ever heard of it?
Red Dead. Yeah, we'll be talking about Red Dead next time. But until then, everyone, have a good... I'm completely exhausted. Have a good...
good night.
Month. Have a good month. Enjoy Red Dead, and we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye. Destiny 2 is exhausting, man. It's ruined me.
I agree. It is ruining me.